We have a quorum. We do have a quorum, so we'll get started this morning. Welcome. This morning we are in subcommittee number 3 for the community colleges. And we're going to look at their budget and hear what they have to tell us. Dr. Mayfield and Dr. Smith, welcome.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having us today. I'm going to turn it over to our MACC president, Steve Bishop. He is the president at Southwest, and he's going to kick us off this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mayfield. Thank you so much for your willingness to listen to us today, and thank you for your continued support of the community college system in Mississippi. We have 15 community colleges all over Mississippi, and we are always recognized, or regularly recognized, as one of the best, if not the best, community college system in the country. Certainly something for us to celebrate, certainly something for us to maintain, and that's what we're striving to do. It is my honor to represent all 15 community colleges this year and next year. Just a little bit about me. I have been serving in the community college system for 28 and a half years. I've been serving as president for 9.5. So basically I've kind of grown up in this system, learned a great deal from those who came before us, as we all should. And we're doing our best to provide for our local communities, our students, also provide an excellent opportunity for the state of Mississippi. Last week I was here in the hallways of the Capitol and had an opportunity to visit with some of you. And you know, when you're in the hallway, you see a lot of other lobbyists, and you strike up conversations with those guys. They represent a variety of areas like forestry, education, nursing, child care, other universities, if you will. And I realized at that point in time that we touch on all of those people. Our community colleges are certainly relied upon from those entities in our state. So that puts a lot of responsibility on us, whether it be business and industry or looking for those individuals who can come and work for them and be an avid part of their business as they try to grow it here in Mississippi, or if those universities are looking for our transfer students. And one of our major university representatives told me last week that we certainly rely on those good transfers from the university. So it's my honor to be here. Dr. Jesse Smith from Jones recently has served as our chairman of our legislative agenda. He is very experienced in this area. He's going to lead out with the discussion. Of course, we all know Dr. Andre Mayfield, our executive director for the community college system. So again, thank you for what you do. Thank you for your passion and your recognition of what we do, not just for our individual students, but our community and the longevity of the economic interest of Mississippi. So Dr. Smith or Dr. Mayfield, if you will, we'll kind of tag team this, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. The first point that I wanted to make was simply to thank all of you for your work in assisting us with the CARES dollars that we received. Last year was especially difficult, and it was difficult for everyone. The CARES dollars made a huge difference. I mean, it truly allowed us to keep our doors open amid economic loss so that we could serve people who were in need. At the agency, the board level, the CARES dollars helped us to purchase the technology and equipment that we needed to provide a safe work environment and to ensure that our work continued uninterrupted throughout the pandemic. So we are appreciative. At the community colleges, the CARES dollars too helped to provide that safe environment, to lend support to the people at the college, the students, faculty, staff, provide them with relief and also opportunities for employment. So this morning, what I want to do is to talk briefly about the agency budget request, what we want here at the board, and then I will turn it over to Dr. Jesse Smith, who will talk about the community college priorities. For the agency, ours is very simple. We are simply requesting that the general funds cut in 2021 are restored in the amount of $329,651. And then the LBR also shows another cut at a 2.4%, which is approximately $148,000 for 2022. So we're asking for the restoration of the cuts from 2021 and also requesting that we don't incur additional cuts for 2022. And there's a reason for this. I run a tight ship at the agency. Our budget is extremely tight. We cut everywhere we can across all departments. And we are now to the point where if the funds aren't restored and we receive additional cuts, then I'll be forced to lay people off. And that's problematic in and of itself, because that will impact our ability as an agency to handle the workload to fulfill our state responsibilities. So again, ours is very simple. We're asking for a restoration of cuts received in 2021, and then asking that we not receive or incur additional cuts for FY 2022. When we look at the community colleges, the system itself has sustained budget cuts throughout the years, but you all know that. They too have been forced to lay off personnel and close programs and really find innovative ways to do more with less. And they have. But when you look at the decline in state support, the disparity between what the community colleges receive per student as compared to K-12 and IHL, and then factor in the increased pressure the community colleges face to provide dual credit services at a steep discount, well, all of that together has resulted in a significant decline in the financial health of the community college system as a whole. And that impacts our ability to serve the constituents of our state. You know, when I think about investing money, I'm going to put money where I'm going to get the greatest return. And the community college system is asking for an increase of $62 million, which is a value. It would bring the system's state support to the level where it needs to be to support the work that is being done. And we know from that economic impact report we shared last year that the community college system is a billion-dollar business. It's an economic producer for the state of Mississippi. The community colleges are not only turning out the workforce, but they're employing people. They conduct business transactions every day, and all of these things and more combined help Mississippi reap the economic impact benefits from this system. We are hopeful this year that the community college system will be a priority investment for the state, especially when we have stakeholders that depend on the community college system really more than they ever have before. Now, Dr. Smith is going to break down the community college support request. He's given you a handout, and I will turn it over to him to talk about those priorities.
Thank you, Dr. Mayfield. Good morning. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us today. We're truly honored to be able to be with you here today. I, too, have been involved with the community college system for several decades. This is the start of my 28th year, and I think it has been It is indeed one of the greatest assets in America is the Mississippi Community College system. And its success has been because of the support that we have had historically since our foundation in the early 1900s. And we thank you for the continued support for that. So Dr. Mayfield talks about investment. Last year, the Mississippi legislature, and historically, have been investing about $230 million in the community college system. Our economic impact report that we did back in 2020 estimated that the annual return on those investments is about $277 million to the good in income taxes and taxes back to the state of Mississippi from our graduates and from our students. So I think it is, and we can show it, that it is a positive investment. Historically, we have shown that. We've been the backbone of our communities for many years. This year, we have requested a $62 million increase in our budget, and we want to explain why and give a historical reason. So in your handout, we have inside front cover. As you look, you'll see our priorities, and I'll explain these 6 priorities as we go along briefly. But if you look to the 3rd page, I want to give you something to look at and just consider. If you look on the 3rd page, inside cover, you'll see that there is a graph there. And if you look at the red arrows at the top, and they point to 2 columns. One year is 2000, one year is 2020. If you look at what we were receiving in the year 2000, the state of Mississippi was investing $188 million in community college education. Fast forward that and include just general increases of inflation rate. Just CPI, these are actual CPI dollars. If you were just to take that $188 million and convert it to 2020 dollars, it would be $283 million. Again, the state invested in us about $230 million. So our request is $62 million. And it is for 2 reasons. Number one, we need some investment from the state. We need your help. Historically, we've delivered on what we have promised to do, and I hope you know that we have a stellar track record in doing so. But I also wanted to go over that and break it down by student of what that would actually cost to make that increase. So if you turn with me to the 2nd or the 4th page, which will be, looks something like this. Of course, you're there already. I would like to break down each of our priorities and how it relates to each student. So we did request an increase of $62 million. First, I'd like for you to look at the small table right in the middle, right here, and it'll show you the comparison of what the state invests, reimburses each of the community colleges based upon students. We are reimbursed on an FTE basis, and FTE is 30 semester hours earned. If a student earns 30 semester hours, that equals 1 FTE, and we reimburse it. So it's $3,600 and 32 cents per FTE. If you look at the per unit basis of the other educational providers for K through 12, you'll see that it's $6,122. For the regional universities, you'll see it's $6,272 per unit. This is the best way to make the comparison of the per unit reimbursements, okay? So you'll see that we are at 3,632. So we're a pretty solid, a wise investment of what we've been trying to do for the state of Mississippi, considering the return. So in our first priority, if you look down at the bottom, and it also relates, you can see those in broader points on page 1. Our first priority is just to catch up from the reduced appropriations from last fiscal year, $6.658 million. So if you break that down to per FTE, that if you look at the very last column, you'll see that's $95. So from the formula reduction of 6.658, if we had that restored, it would be $95 and some change per FTE. Our second priority is a 5% increase in the funding formula. That would be $143. That's a total of $10 million. A 3% salary increase for our employees, just $10 million, $143 per FTE. Our fourth priority is for additional career and technical education programs. It means to expand existing and to start new ones. We are asking for $10.5 million and approximately $151 per FTE. And the last of which is priority number 5. It's a dual credit scholarship program of $25 million, which is equivalent to approximately $360 per FTE. $25 million for a dual credit scholarship. As you know, dual credit is something that we're committed to because we see the benefits that it's having with our K through 12 students, and it also is giving our students a leg up and making it easier for them to earn a degree and a credential. We've seen significant growth from its inception to where we are today. However, it has come at a cost, and the community colleges have been the ones that have been carrying that cost for years and years and years. Our composite financial index as an institution and as a system has degraded every year, and it's directly related to how the funding structure is related to dual credit. We are dependent upon tuition to support our operational budgets, and we are very limited in what we can charge in dual credit students. So those are the facts. It's not a complaint. We want to supply and do what we're charged to do in our mission, and that is to educate our communities. However, we believe that a $25 million scholarship fund could solve this problem for both of us. Not only would it help students be able to afford dual credit, but it would also ensure stability in our financial system of the community college system. Those are our top 5 priorities related to appropriations. The 6th priority is related to bonded indebtedness, which is, if you want to discuss that, we'll be happy to, but I think it would be irrelevant for this discussion today. So I will be happy to pause and entertain questions or my colleagues at any point, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Dr. Smith, on that last point, because I know I've discussed it with all of you all at the community college system. Have there been any recent developments or discussions with MDE and with the various high schools as to that situation concerning the payment and the cost of the dual credit? I recognize exactly, because I've even spoken to your group about this, and I get it. I mean, I totally understand, but are there other discussions in place to help rectify that imbalance that you're carrying on the dual credit?
Most of the discussions are happening at the local level, so it's from one community college to the other. There's really not a statewide conversation that is yet to begin to address the ADA or financial support. It's technically been the high school's decision from one to the other as to how they want to spend that money.
Mr. Chairman, when we left you last, we had a discussion here about dual credit. We had a collective meeting before the Senate. The issue for Mississippi Department of Education is accessibility. We understand that. We all agree that we must provide accessibility to our students, to the K through 12 students. Mm-hmm. On the opposite side of that, in order to do that, there must be some way to be able to deliver that. Everything that is done, as you know, has cost. Since that time, we've had very limited discussions with MDE in that regard, but the community colleges have continued to be concerned about this. We have legislation drafted, and the bill has been introduced on the House. We understand that there has been a dual credit bill that has been introduced, Senate Bill 2540, that addresses the issue from the Senate's perspective. It is very limited in its design to solve the problem that we see in its face value. It does help with the accessibility, but it does not solve the issue related to the delivery and the costs. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
We firmly believe that we cannot, in its current form with the Senate Bill 2540, there are some things that must be tweaked. Now, we understand that there is to be a meeting to work through the Senate bill to review, add value, add things, some thoughts, some processes, and we're eager to do so. But it's in its current form, it's very limited, and it will only make things, we think, significantly worse as it's drafted now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that bill, but I think the system, and I think you acknowledged that earlier, it's a good opportunity for our citizens, for the children, the students, and others that are involved. I recognize the financial strain that it's put on the community colleges, and I really would rather not. This is just my opinion. I mean, other members may feel differently. I'd rather not have the legislature weigh in on what agreement should be worked out between community colleges and K through 12. I mean, that's really a decision I really feel like should be made between those two entities. You know, your group and NDE, I guess, on behalf of K through 12, to say this is what we think is a fair price for these classes, and this is what we can offer. And I also don't like the fact that you have the apparently disparate programs around the state. I mean, what I've seen is that you got, some places where they're paying more, some places where they're paying less, some where they really aren't even utilizing it too much. That may have changed over the last few years, and other times where it is being utilized well. And I don't know that it has to be uniform. I don't really, if people don't care in that particular area that they're getting that opportunity, I suppose that's their prerogative. But I think there's a lot of value there. But I understand your situation, and I really wish y'all would sit down with MDE. I mean, you may get to a point where you say we can only offer 1 or 2 classes, and that's not good either. I'm not encouraging you to do that, but you may get to that point if you can't afford to do it, and that's the discussion I think that needs to be had. I would rather it not be in here, and I'd rather be y'all. I'm comfortable with y'all doing it, but that's just my 2 cents, and I'll shut up. And if you have comments on that, you can.
I agree with that.
And you don't have to comment on it. But
Mr. Chairman, we agree. We agree that we should be able to do that. There has been a great a confluence of equality in pricing amongst the 15 colleges. We're all within just a few percentage points of what we charge per credit hour.
And I think it should be that way because we're in Mississippi. There's no major cost of living difference between areas. And you might have a slight difference in one region to another, but it's not too much. And it seems like it makes sense for everybody to have almost a blanket policy that says this is what it costs for this course.
Right. Absolutely. We're there on the pricing side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do share the chairman's concerns about dual enrollment. We've been looking at that for quite a while, and I think that should be a win-win situation for all who are involved with dual enrollment, community colleges, other students, and also our K-12 education. I'm very, very pleased with the work y'all been doing over the years. In fact, we've been hearing comments about your great work from other states and also different countries because they know that you're doing something right in Mississippi. One question I have is the impact that this pandemic is having on your enrollment on various campuses. Has it had a negative impact or positive in terms of student enrollment or what?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. We do see around the state that we are being affected by the pandemic with our reduction in enrollment. Now, that's not complete with all 15. There are a couple community colleges that are maintaining probably. But for most of us, there's going to be a reduction in enrollment. Our preliminary numbers for this semester, it appears that there's going to be a 12 to 15% reduction in enrollment from this time last year. We have heard as high as 18% at one of our community colleges. So we do think that that's a result of the current pandemic. There may be other reasons, but we've had a pretty strong enrollment. through the years, and we see the reduction now. So we are concerned about that. Some people might think that the CARES Act money made us whole from that. It did not. It allowed us to purchase equipment and other supplies that would help us combat this pandemic, as we do have our dorms open. We do have face-to-face classes at most of our community colleges. At my college, we started our face-to-face classes yesterday. So it does take extra effort, extra personnel to do that, but our citizens, our students appreciate that, and we're going to do our best to provide some normalcy for those students. But to answer your question, the preliminary numbers do say or show that we have a reduction, and we do believe that's because of COVID-19.
How would that reduction impact the various programs that you're offering? We have to reduce some of the programs you're offering because of the pandemic. We have to reduce some or add some that you find that would be more attractive to the students, more attractive to business.
I think I know what you're asking. I do know that we've had to cancel and postpone many of our workforce training programs for business and industry because of the pandemic. That's other than our classroom opportunity. Of course, most of our activity has been reduced as well. Think of dorm life, you think of cafeteria, think of general community service that we offer. At all of our campuses, we are the hub of that community. And many of us host a lot of different events, whether it be banquets or other meetings for the individuals within our community, and most, if not all of that, has been taken away as well. So it's impacted more than just the classroom. It's impacted the workforce efforts. It's impacted our community service as well.
Mr. Chairman, we're very thankful. We would not have been able to make it without the generosity of the legislature appropriating those dollars to help us. There's no question. I don't know if anyone has told you, but thank you. We would not have been able to continue without your support. So whatever you invested, it was well spent as best we could given the time frame. There is another issue, and that is it is performance. We've seen the overall performance of our students drop simply because there's so many other factors at play right now beyond the pandemic that it's having an impact in our classrooms. And so people are waiting to see. We see a lot of changes, and we're all wanting to make things better. But yes, it has had a pretty significant impact on how we do things, but we've got to keep moving forward. And everything that you invest in us is very well spent.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I do want to commend all of our community colleges for pressing on. We work together not only with our state community college board, but we share ideas and we work through this, navigate through it. And I think they've performed like champions the last 9 months or so.
Any other committee members? One other question I have for you. Do you have an articulation agreement with all of our IHL institutions in the state?
Yes, sir. That is the bedrock of our organizations, is this articulation agreement. It is reviewed periodically, and we hold it as one of the greatest assets of our institutions of IHL, with IHL and the community college system. It is the very backbone that's what makes our system a success. Very thankful for our IHL partners for keeping that and honoring it. Thanks to your help, too. I know how involved you've been with that over the years. We appreciate your support.
Thank you. If there are no more questions from the committee members, I would like to thank you all for making the presentation. We're going to work very closely with the chairman to make sure that we come out with a budget that we all can live with based on our available revenues. So thank you for coming, and we're looking forward to getting this budget finalized.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Rise and report.